Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 130. Tonight we'll be giving you our Man City match and player analysis. We're going to talk about another massive summer for Wolverhampton Wanderers, take some of your questions and look ahead to Saturday's game, Wolves' penultimate home game of the season against Brighton and Hove Albion. Slight change of cast this evening. As you can probably see, Nocky and Tyler have morphed into one. Not really. Delighted to have onto the show BBC WM's Daz Hale. Nocky and Tyler. I think Nocky's scouting in Spain and Tyler's playing cricket. Make of that what you will. Daz, thanks so much again for joining us on the Wolves Report.
Thanks for asking us on. I was going to ask where the cheeky girls were, so that they're often doing other stuff tonight.
That's probably one of the kind of things they've been called on this show. Let's get straight into business, Daz. Friday night, the 6-game and beaten run came to an end, but it wasn't without a fight. Your take on Manchester City 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
I was really proud. Obviously, we won this 6 matches on the spin, and I'd heard, some people saying, "Oh yeah, well, you're only playing teams below you." Yeah, well, that was because the first 10 matches of the season were horrific. So ultimately, you've got to play everybody twice, haven't you? So maybe the league table's a little bit skewed at the start of the season. But I think basically, when Vitor Pereira in the build-up to the game had said that he compared it to he drew comparisons and parallels with the Liverpool match, didn't he? Where we went there a little bit passive in the first half. And he said, I don't want that. And when you consider that in the previous manager, in those first 10 matches, his narrative was, well, they're better than us. They're going to finish above us in the league. And there was this whole inferiority complex before he went into it. So I was just delighted to see they came out on the front foot. They didn't go there and shut up shop, which wouldn't have been a bad idea. Most teams do.
I think even Arsenal have gone there, Daz, and tucked in.
Yeah. And we were brave. And on another night, clearly we could have won the match. We had the better chances. I don't recall. I think they gave it as a save, the one shot in the first half, which went over the bar. And I think it might have touched Jose Sar's fingernails. But other than that, they didn't have an effort on target apart from the goal. We were hardly being peppered. And I think probably 10 minutes up to, once they'd scored, about 10 minutes up to half time, we were hanging on a bit. And I was pleased to hear the half time whistle. But again, that showed the other side of our game now, where we're resilient, we're strong. We looked defensively solid. But overall, it was a front-footed performance. And I was delighted with it. And again, I know that there was a few people a little bit surprised at the reaction at the end with everybody linking arms and all this sort of stuff. And that reminded me a little bit of when Jurgen Klopp first came in at Liverpool, when he'd succeeded Brendan Rodgers, and things had begun to get a little bit fragmented there. And they actually drew it home to Albion. And I think Albion went down I think Albion went down that year. And there was a lot of people saying, well, why is he doing this? They've only drawn it home to Albion. But it was all about building this connection. And this guy knows exactly what he's doing. And those people who were there, I don't know how many sold, massive away following again. And they appreciated it. And I think this is all building blocks. And when you consider the massive disconnect there was between the club and the supporters, admittedly, Jeff's tried to light another fire last week with the Wolves women. But still, even when things are going well, try and light a fire somewhere. I think it's really, really encouraging. But the overall performance, I thought we were terrific. And I think we got a lot of respect from Manchester City and their supporters as well, and from Pep Guardiola.
What does it say, Daz, about the work done in the short space of time? I know this is something we talked about with Nocky and Tyler and other guys as well on the show. But what does it say about the work that's done in a short space of time, where we're going to somewhere like Man City? Yeah, we'll probably lose, but we're giving these teams, like at Liverpool, the champions, like at Man City last Friday night, we're giving them a proper game. And in both those instances, Wolves are unfortunate to come away with nothing.
Nuno vibes for me, Ryan. And I know I'm not the first one to have said that, but under Nuno, we went into every game thinking we had a chance. And again, you pull the odd result out the hat, more than the odd result against the so-called big teams. Tended to struggle a little bit actually against the teams below us, which hasn't been the case this time. But it's got back to that sort of mentality again now, where we're not rocking up like we're some plucky, because that was the narrative. It was our first. It's almost as we were Ipswich and we just got promoted in the first half of the season. That's gone now, and he's basically just instilled a belief and a confidence in them that they belong at this level and they're good footballers. And you think back to it in the first half of the season, like we have now, we had Brazil's midfield Although the last manager decided to put one of them on the bench for weeks on end. But we always had the better players, but now they actually believe that they're better. And I think the fact that Ryan, that he's made us so solid, means now there is a little bit more confidence, and you can take the handbrake off a little bit more because you know the back door's shut. And I think that's been really, really important as well.
What's been really interesting for me is I know obviously any team near the bottom, the main job when a manager comes in, a new head coach comes in, is to tighten things up. And as a result of that, it usually means it's a little bit more bland. There's less attack. But somehow that's not the case because Wolves are now, they're a threat going forward. They're fun to watch and they're organised. I mean, even back in the best Nuno days, it wasn't always like that. Granted, that first and second year in the Premier League, Jota, Jimenez, that was something special that if we get anywhere near that again, it'll be incredible. But Wolves look now like a team that's playing for the manager. They're gritty, they're determined, they're organised, they're hard to beat, they're entertaining and they're fun to watch. How has he done that in such a short space?
Exactly. And it's not as if, I mean, again, Nuno's doing it now at Forest, isn't he? Very, very solid. Don't particularly want the ball. And then bish, bash, bosh, pacing attack. They've got a proper centre forward who is in Chris Wood now. And we obviously had Raul. It's different, yeah. And it's just been built on, I mean, I think we're scoring just as many, if not more goals than we were now under Gary O'Neill, except instead of letting three in, it's under one now, I think, since he's come in. And again, I think it's by organisation. He's simplified things terrifically for them. Square pegs in square holes. But also, I don't think you can underestimate. Well, first of all, the goalkeeper's a lot more settled now because there's a settled back line in front of him. And it doesn't have to be Bobby Moore now. There's a lot more not trying to play that from the back. I mean, they do sometimes. But I really don't think you can underestimate the impact that Agbadou has had. And also Totti Gomez, who him coming back in and his physicality, that's also freed up Ryan Aït-Nouri a little bit and covered Aït-Nouri and gets him out of a lot, because obviously, as talented as he is, and he is, sometimes he switches off, doesn't he, defensively? But now Totti's covering that. So it's the classic build from the back. And we have learned how to grind out results, but that's not been the philosophy. And again, as you heard him say, he wants to be front foot. He wants to take teams on, and it's amazing what a bit of belief, if someone believes in you and gives you confidence. And obviously,
instead of telling you you're not good enough.
Yeah. And I think the important thing was that was the immediate buy-in, because if he'd have come in and we'd have lost if we'd have lost at Leicester, we'd have been 8 points adrift, wouldn't we? But the fact we came in and straight away we've won the first two matches, and then we had the FA Cup game, and I think we went and won that as well, or whatever. But the immediate buy-in from the players, because his methods work straight away. And it's been real momentum now and confidence and the feel-good factors back. But I just think we've got a lot more physicality throughout the team now. We're a lot more solid, a lot more organised, and players have confidence again and believe again now, and don't feel almost as if they haven't got imposter syndrome anymore, because I think there was a little bit of that going on again because of whether Gary O'Neill was saying that to them privately or whether that was for the media. But either way, they're still hearing him saying it, and it ultimately rubs off, doesn't it?
Regardless of your level of football or sport or wherever, if someone's telling you after you've played terribly against Ipswich and you've lost, that's the best that you can do, it's going to do a lot for your belief in yourself, isn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, for a short spell, I was grateful for what Gary did. Obviously, the start at Man United and that season, it was good. But after Coventry, it went terribly wrong. But then somehow he was rewarded with a new deal. Not been in football since, but there we go. Anyway, let's not talk about any more about Gary O'Neill. One of the things I want to talk to you about as well, Daz, not just at Man City, which turned out to be sort of undoing for the goal conceded, but the way Wolves are confident on the ball. You touched on it, confidence then. I know Totti Gomez can throw one in occasionally, but he's a fantastic stopper. But recently, on the ball, him, Aït-Nouri, what Agbadou does, Doherty becoming a right centre-back, the consistent Nelson Semedo. This is a team of players that look unrecognisable before, like crumbling 5 at Brentford, getting smashed at home by Chelsea.
The Everton game,
just bullied at Everton. Little triangles out of defence now. you can give the using Andre correctly. You can ping the ball into him anywhere, the same as Ain't Nori, and he's happy to receive it. The confidence installed to play out the back with confidence at somewhere like Man City is absolutely, it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah, and they're very well drilled now, Wolves, and they're training a lot more than maybe they were earlier on in the season. In fact, they're definitely training a lot more than they were earlier on in the season. And they're just well drilled and they know what they're doing. And also, I think it helps as well that we haven't had too many injuries either since Vitor's come in. Obviously, Cunha's done his best to miss about a third of the matches through various regions. And we missed Agbadou for a couple of 3 games after he did his hamstring at Liverpool. But generally, he's been able to pick a settled team. And I think that's something else as well. It's not fashionable, that, is it? Picking a settled team with the rotation. And again, it's just everything at the moment just feels right. And we've, Gary O'Neill isn't the first Wolves manager to have tried the back four. And I don't know what it is because the personnel's changed over the years, but it just feels, I don't know why, but Wolverhampton Wanderers in the modern era just seem better when they play a 3. And
I agree.
And it doesn't feel like a defensive 5. It actually feels like a 3 now because the 2 wing backs get forward. Well, the players wingers, don't they, a lot of the time in games now?
Yeah, it definitely feels different. But I think, as you say, Agbadou, for me, he's flirting with player of the season. I know he's only been there half the season, and as brilliant as Cunha has been, the impact of Agbadou has been like the way he settled the team down, the way he's brought the best out of Totti, out of Matt Doherty, his cross-field passes, his strength. He has been absolutely fantastic. And it is like a back 3, but if you've got a back 3 that with a lot of pace, 2 of the 3 of them, Doc's not slow. He's not particularly quick off the mark, but he's not slow. But if you've got those players and Totti and Agbadou, you can play higher up, and your defensive midfielders and forwards and wing backs know that you can play higher up because they're not afraid of a ball over the top.
No, he's prepared. He's quite happy to go one-on-one as well defensively, and of course the goalkeeper who still had. I said he's a lot more settled, and he played sweeper if he could. Anyway, like he has a good high start.
Front if he could.
Yeah. So now I thought Lemina was getting your vote for player of the season. Anyway, Mario Lemina, not Agbadou. Can you believe?
Honestly, Daz, Mario Lemina broke my heart. Never fall in love with any of your players, but he was fantastic for us. Him, Craig Dawson, Lopetegui, that small era of success when Wolves were growing. Yeah, but the way some players leave in modern football, I love Mario Lemina, but the way he left, it just,
feels like a long time ago now. They don't even know it was only 4 months or whatever.
You are watching and listening episode 170 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hale and myself, Ryan Lester. Adrian Richard says, Jesus, how do I watch Inter Barca at the same time as the pod? That's not something I ever thought the Wolves report will be interfering with, Adrian, but I appreciate it and I hope you've made the right choice.
Adrian, can you keep us up to speed with the score?
That'd be fantastic, yes. That'd be fantastic because I don't want Daz veering off watching the game on Sky Go in the background as well. Back to the game, Daz. I know I talked about praising them playing out from the back, but we'll start off on a negative. We did kind of get caught in a press. We got caught in possession. One of the best attacking midfielders the Premier League has ever seen, if not the best. You give him a chance, 8-9 yards out, there's only going to be one result.
Yeah, it was Andre, wasn't it? It was human error.
Very unusual for him.
Yeah, but that's what because they very quietly, they've got their mojo back, and they've been winning a lot of matches recently, Manchester City, and it's gone under the radar really because of all the narrative before. But I think that, off the top of it, it's like 8 wins in 9 or something, so they're a lot better than what they were. But again, we conceded a goal trying to do the right thing, and that's going to happen from time to time. And it was a ruthless finish, but overall, I've 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, he doesn't make that error, but he is human. So ultimately, you've got to just take that one on the chin. But it doesn't change the fact that if we'd had a bit more luck and a little bit more composure in the final third, especially with the first chance, then we'd come away with at least a draw. And if we had done, I don't think anyone could have begrudged us that.
No, absolutely. You were right, though, that after Man City scored, it looked like they were trying to go for the kill, and we were
Yeah,
grateful for the half-time whistle. However, before Andre was dispossessed and Wolves went a goal down to the magnificent Kevin De Bruyne, Wolves probably could and should have been a couple of goals up.
yeah,
The move in the build-up for the Bellegarde misplaced pass when he could have squared the nets in was beautiful. I mean, Cunha's pressed, he's won the tackle, he's fed the ball through Man City's high line. Bellegarde's timed his run, and he just that little bit of composure. I think that he would have had if he'd have been in the team the last few weeks. Been out
yeah.
of the team a few weeks. It's unusual for him because I think in those moments recently, particularly under Vitor, he's been quite good, but you have to say that's a really, really poor pass, and he just should have rolled it across the face of goal.
Well,
I looked at it, and I don't even think he looked up, Daz.
it's one of them that if he shoots and he misses it, it's why didn't he pass? But whatever it is, you've got to get it right. And there was a lack of quality there, wasn't there? But I'll tell you what, a few months ago, and certainly last season, we'd have been 3 down by half time. The way when Man City went up that gear after the goal, and they were peppering us with all the set plays, and there was a lot of set plays at Old Trafford as well when we went there, and we're just far more resilient now, and
Organised.
it makes a big, big difference. And I think that then you get the confidence that you're not going out there thinking, well, we're going to have to score 3 to get a point, which is pretty much what the case was in the first half of the season.
That raises an interesting point. How many saves did Jose Sarr have to make on Friday night?
No, as I say, that was the one. I'm not even sure he touched it in the first half. Was it Doku? And he went flying over the bar. And I think they gave a corner, but that was it. That's it. And then he picked the ball out the net. Otherwise, didn't make a save all night.
And I know Man City have a certain way of playing, and they sort of grind you down, don't they? Left, right, and they're the little triangles. But to restrict a team, Haaland or not, of that quality on their own patch, recent Champions League winners, current Premier League title holders,
And in form.
and in form to pretty much nothing, for me, speaks volumes of where Wolverhampton Wanderers are and where they're going.
Yeah, and you think back to the second half at Liverpool. What was the stat? We were the first team to stop them having a shot
It's incredible.
at home in like 20 years or whatever it is. So moving in the right direction. The key now will be to make sure that they back him in the summer, which I'm sure we'll come on to, and give him the raw materials to continue to develop what he's started, because he ain't had a pre-season with him yet. If he can make this sort of impact when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and obviously international breaks, 2/3 of the squad are away, so he's not had any time like in March or anything. Imagine what he could do with 2.5 months with a group of players to really, really start to enforce his identity. And also, I think there's probably certain players he wants to work with a little bit as well and work on and just get his ideas across to them. Maybe some players we haven't even seen much of yet, like Giga, for instance, who I'm guessing once he's had a pre-season and got up to speed, I think he could be a big player next season as well.
Well, just on that, I mean, I know Dave Birch mentioned here, and Trish, you should mention that a back three of Totti, Agba and Mosquera takes some beating for pace and physicality. I mean, if you add in Giga as there as well, and let's not disrespect Matt Doherty, that I know Nocky and Tyler and myself said it was an experiment, but now Doherty's in that team on merit, because he's been I think, other than probably the Forest game when he got pulled out wide and skinned for the setup for their first goal, I don't think he's really done anything wrong. So, but looking forward, Daz, Agbadu, Mosquera, Matt Doherty, De Giga, and if we add elsewhere, from being the weakest part of our team, that actually looks one of the strongest areas.
Yeah, and also don't forget Manetzi can play there as well. And he's by trade, he's a CDM or a centre back, and where he's been playing so far, don't actually think he's ever played there in his career before. Never mind having to play it in the Premier League. So, but you do need ultimately. It's not, we can name 3 players, but you need to have 2 for every position, don't you? Because it's a long, long season.
It's a long old season, and particularly as well. And I know we keep talking about this, but I want to run in the cup as well. And this season, if you see Man United and Spurs, who Wolves are currently better than, but are potentially both in a European final, and Newcastle, who are better than Wolves, but in a final, and you've seen Crystal Palace in a final, you have to have the conversation and say, well, that's surely something that Wolves can achieve. Obviously, I'm not talking about Europa League semi-finals just yet, but I'm talking if that level of team who are in and around Wolves are having that success with the right investment, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. That's an opportunity for Wolves, surely.
Ain't it great? Because at Christmas, when we went to Leicester.
You weren't talking to me at Christmas, I don't think.
Oh, no. It's been 8 points. And if you'd have said to me then, you'll finish, go to the final day of the season, and you'll finish outside the bottom 3 on goal difference, I'd have
taken your arm off.
Yeah. And so to go from that to this, we've got our flip-flops on, and we're already thinking about potentially what we could achieve next season. It's an incredible transformation. I'm still my head spinning a little bit. Still feels a little bit surreal, but I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, perhaps we'll talk about recruitment in a bit and the summer window, because it's massive now, and hopefully Fosun have learnt the lessons, because 2 out of the last 3 summers, when they've tried to do it on the cheap, they've ended up spending big in January anyway,
and then getting new managers and all kinds of business.
Yeah, and then of course, then you pay over the odds in January usually anyway. So maybe they've learnt the lesson. Now we'll see.
Just before we go on to the player ratings, and as you're saying, then even though Wolves lost, the feel good factor, obviously, aside from the issue with the women's team and what had gone on with that. The feel-good factor amongst the men's side, the connection with the players, the fans, players like Sarabia coming in, players like Santiago Buenin coming in, being part of it, not sulking, taking their time. Everyone seems on board.
Yeah,
the fans, and this is again. I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit with the summer, but it's so good to be a Wolves fan again at the moment. And I just like you said, Daz, it's just nice. It feels. It's pressure free. It's enjoyable. There's a bunch of players playing for us. They're tackling. They're tracking. The football's good. They're organised. But yeah, it's good times, and hopefully we carry on that momentum into next year.
Well, I know. I mean, it remains to be seen what happened yet with Semedo, who would get my vote for Player of the Year actually. But the very fact that when he did his interview with the media 2-3 weeks ago, he actually almost had come and get me sort of thing, saying, no, I haven't ruled out staying. Well, come on, in January, I bet if you'd have asked him then, he'd have been like, there's no chance. And with the story about Ryan Aït-Nouri as well, might be offered they're trying to get him to sign a new deal. These players now, let's face it, it's even after a season that's been mainly one to endure, but now one to enjoy, we're going to finish in and around halfway in the Premier League. It's still the best league in the world, apparently. So if there's things to look forward to, and there's hope and there's ambition, then if we're feeling it, I think the players are feeling it. And if they could get Semedo to sign, then that would be one of the biggest signings I think we could make this summer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Tom, Adrian, and Carl all mention and give you a score, Daz. It's currently 1-0 to Inter Milan.
It's
like the Wolves Report video printer. Thank you to the guys that have updated us with the score there. Let's finish off on the game, Daz. Let's talk about the team. Let's just go through and give our ratings. Jose Sarr, I don't think he had a lot to do. He had that one he tipped over. Kevin De Bruyne is not going to miss them there. It doesn't matter who's in goal. But again, credit to those in front of him. But I think what he had to do, he did quite well.
Solid 7. And there was no dramas, and that's generally. I mean, he was stitched up by Jamie Vardy the other week, and because again he was a little bit erratic coming off his line. But since the turn of the year, he doesn't give me kittens anymore. He's just a lot more settled. And I said earlier, maybe it's come from having a settled back line, and he's not being asked to do it anywhere near as much work. But he's settled down and he's looked good, solid goalkeeper in the second half. And I thought he did absolutely, everything that was asked of him the other night, he did it with the minimum of force. And as you say, the goal from that distance, he was wrong-footed. You wouldn't have saved that. It's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think something that the manager and his team have done with everybody is simplified it now. I know there was a real insistence on a purist way of football, playing out the back. And when you're unconfident and you're doing that, it's going to bring out mistakes. So now it looks like Jose Sarr is reading it. Well, if the opportunity to play is there, if you're 100% on the pass, make it. If not, play the percentage ball. You're not going to get in trouble. Strand Larsen's winning more headers. Let's get Manetti's up there. Let's get it up the pitch. And I think that non-reliance, or that too sort of stuck in one way, you must play it out, you can't clear it, It's such a simple thing, but it's freed him up.
He's allowing them to. I think he's just trusting them a bit more than with O'Neill, it was very forensic and it was very robotic, and they had to do certain, regardless, of what was going on in and around him. You can sit there all week planning something, but in a moment, in a game, you can feel yourself what's going on, and if you're under pressure, or maybe you just conceded a goal and you need to keep it. But they had to just do things by the letter, whereas now they've trusted a little bit more just to make decisions.
Yeah.
They're good players.
That they are, and I think Tyler said at the start during that bad run, this set of players should not be where they are in the league. Granted, the table doesn't lie, and at the time it wasn't lying because Wolves were underperforming. Granted, with some tough fixtures as well, but this set of players shouldn't have been where they were. But they're in a better position now. Moving on to the centre backs, Matt Doherty, Emmanuel Agbadou, and Toti Gomez. I'll start one off. Daz, you've done lots of talking so far. I can't stop talking about him, and I even called knocking Tyler Agbadou. I'm just obsessed with the guy. For me, so far, £17.5 million looks to be one of our best signings that we've ever made in the Premier League. If this level of performance and consistency is what we're going to get, then Wolves need to be careful because people will be looking at him. He has been absolutely fantastic, but not just his physical presence, his pace, his passing ability, what he's done for others around them, the confidence he's given Doherty, the confidence he's given Toherty, the confidence he's given Jose Sarr. So for me, I think he had another good game. Although he was on a losing side, but I'm probably going to give him an 8 out of 10.
Agreed. I think he's integral to what's happened. I'm so glad we never got Danso. He was injured not long after he came anyway. I think he's a monster. But the composure on the ball as well. And whatever happens with Nelson Semedo, whether Nelson stays or not, if Nelson goes, then Agbadou's captain for me next season. He certainly will be in the next 2 or 3 years because he's a leader, isn't he? And I think we need a few more leaders in that team.
Absolutely. On to your take on Matt Doherty and Toti Gomez.
Again, both of them really solid. And I think the important thing at Manchester City the other night, because obviously we had a lot of time without the ball, it was just keeping the discipline, keeping the concentration, keeping the
spaces.
Obviously, there's the individual error for the goal and a pulled out position a couple of times, maybe again with the Doku shot. But generally, I mean, against a team like that, whose movement is, is different. It's like a different sport when they're on side. I thought the whole shape and the whole discipline, it was terrific. And I couldn't fault them. And certainly never, even when we were under real pressure the last 10 minutes of the first half, they stood firm and they're really, really good. And you can see that this is chemistry that's already like this connection between the three of them, and they must spend an awful lot of time together on the training ground because they already know each other's games inside out, don't they?
Absolutely. Moving on to the wing backs, I'll start off with Ryan Ait-Nouri, and we'll just bring in a bit of breaking news for those who haven't seen. John Percy reports that Wolves are going to try and strike a new deal with Ryan Ait-Nouri. I believe he's got a year left in his contract with the option of a year for the club as well. So technically he's got a 2-year deal left. For me, he's probably at peak value. But if he's someone that's enjoying his football and he wants to stay there, such a unique talent, Daz, double figures in goal involvement this season. He's scoring, he's assisting, and he's fun as well. But when you've got Toti behind you, who's a one-on-one monster, you can afford to have your wing back getting higher up the pitch.
Yeah. So if he signs, then obviously it's a case of the club protecting their interests. But that would also tell me that they'd have made assurances to him about what they were trying to do this summer. So, because if he'll have suitors, without a shadow of a doubt, he'll have suitors. But again, top half Premier League team again. Hopefully next season, enjoying the football, enjoying where they are, settled in the area. But if they make it clear to him that the club are going to try and move forward and push on this year, and it's not going to be Groundhog Day again, then there's more chance of keeping. If not, if it can sign a new deal, at least then it will increase his market value.
Yeah, it protects the value for the club as well. Yeah,
and again, there might be another clause in there, a release clause or whatever. But I think everybody wins, don't they? If at least it shows the ambition of the club that they are trying to offer him a new deal. And it's not very often we've used that word in the last 2 or 3 seasons regarding Wolves, is it? And players with ambition.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought he was one of the names that I thought would be gone, to be honest. But if he stays, I think that's like a new signing. Get a Vitor to extend, get a new deal for Ryan Aït-Nouri. And already that's a fantastic start to the summer. On to Nelson Semedo, obviously not as spectacular as Ryan Aït-Nouri, but probably a better defensive player. But again, a decent performance.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I think when he first came to the club, he's improved a lot at Wolves because
he's matured, hasn't he?
Back of an 8-2 defeat, didn't he, for Barca? And he said he was better going forward than he was defensively. And
I think that's the other way around.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really. I mean, has he scored this season? You know, you don't see much of him from that sense, but he has now become, for me, Mr. 7 out of 10, week in, week out. And again, I mean, he saw Doku off the other night, didn't he? He had his work.
Not the first time.
Yeah, and so I mean, again, I just thought the whole back line and people were terrific the other night. Yeah, so again, another 7, 8 out of 10 for me for Semedo.
Yeah, really like Nelson. Hope he stays. He seems like a genuine good bloke. I'm glad he's got a song, and it just, for whatever reason, with like a lot of these players, he just seems more settled.
Yeah.
The way he's composed on the ball, he's not spectacular. As Greg says here, in terms of probably what we had recently, a perfect captain too. He doesn't really lose his composure. He doesn't really lose the ball. Granted, his numbers probably aren't as great as what they should be for a wing back, but you're kind of making up for that on the other side of the pitch if you're allowing him to be lopsided and get Aït-Nouri forward. But yeah, I'm a massive fan, and I hope he stays.
And as regards to the captaincy thing as well, that he's really taken that on board, and he's been taking players out for meals, and he's been like, he has just been wearing an armband on a Saturday afternoon. He's taken the responsibility really seriously, and again, he's starting just like, you know, getting everybody together, which unfortunately wasn't happening towards the end when under the last captain, you know. And I really hope we can keep him, because we've got this dirty habit of selling our captain every summer, haven't we? It was
Daz, you've done it now, yeah.
Cody, Neves, Kilman. Then obviously the main had to go in the January. So
we sold 2 this year. Fantastic.
Yeah. But he off the field, he's been a proper captain and a proper leader, and I say taking him out for meals and getting just everybody a lot more bonded off the field as well as on it.
Absolutely. Hope he stays. I know he's had his doubters and he's run a lot of people over, but for me, he's Mr. Consistent on that right-hand side, one of the first names on the sheet. Moving on to probably Wolves' strongest area of the pitch, and that says something when you've got Agbadou. But João Gomez and Andre Daz, it's just, I don't know how. I mean, I think the previous manager was trying to accommodate all three and didn't, but those two as a pair, I mean, it's no surprise they're both Brazil internationals, because week in, week out, these guys are very, very good.
And they dovetail so well, don't they? They're good friends off the field. And I think all good teams, successful teams, have partnerships right throughout the team. And I think that it's integral that we keep those two. There'll be comings and goings over the summer, but them two together are as good as anything, I would say, in that league. And, you know, and I mean, Neves and Matinho are different types of players. And
it's hard to compare because it's a different style of football, isn't it? So
these two are just tigers, aren't they? You know, and you'd back them against everyone. Just as every 50-50 ball now, you'd back Agbadou, wouldn't you? Against any striker, 50-50, you'd think, well, I'll back him here now. And with those two, and I know that
you've got to get past them two first.
Yeah, and they screen so well, and again they just have this like almost telepathy, and I'd like to see their stats, how much ground they cover, but they read the game really well, and I say there'll be people interested in both of them because they're top draw. But if we can keep those two together, then I think the rest of it will fall into place. Absolutely,
it's good spine, isn't it? That Agbadou, Andre, and João Gomez. That's I mean.
Then
Agbadou's 28, I think, and those two both early 20s. Yes, fantastic. Moving on to the front three, got lots to talk about still. Jean Rickner, Bellegarde, Marshall Manetzi, and Matheus Cunha. Pick who you want, Des.
I'll go Manetzi. who, again, I mean, obviously, it wasn't his fault that he didn't get the goal, was it? Because it was a poor pass to him.
Thinker of a pass, yeah.
And again, he didn't really do that much on the ball. He worked his taters off it, and I think he's really important when Wolves haven't got the ball for the ground that he covers and the shape and his physicality. I have sympathy for him because this isn't his position, and you wouldn't personally want to see us starting next season with him playing as one of the front three because he's not a forward player and he's doing a job for the team. As I say, he's a CDM. He can play centre back, but and I know that.
Is it fair to say he's been signed as an example setter, leaving absolutely everything out there, doing exactly as he's told on the pitch, not leaving a leaf unturned in terms of going everywhere, doing absolutely everything. I think he's an example setter to have more people like that in the squad. Is he the most talented? No. I think the manager said that himself in like the pre-game. Is he the most talented? No. But he's somebody that is an ultimate professional, which may be something Wolves have been missing. Like, you know, I mean, we lacked a little bit of discipline the first half of this season.
Physicality as well. And again, his running stats are stupid, aren't they? He covers every inch of grass, and so I get the criticism he's had from some quarters, but I think that he's important to the sum of the parts, if you know what I mean, for what he does in the team. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to start next season with him as one of the front three, but he's doing a job for now, and he's. I mean, I've struggled to see what Vitor has said about he's helped Strand Larsen a lot by playing close to him, but who are we to argue? Because Strand Larsen's scoring a load of goals now, so maybe he's right, but. Yeah, he's running his taters off for the team, and he's physically strong. He's not knocked off the ball by anybody, and yeah. But I do hear that the people who are saying, "Well, what should you bring to the party?" Because it's as regards with the ball at his feet, not a fat lot right now. If we're honest, for me, he's the only square peg at the moment. But he really is working really, really hard, and I think he understands the way. To him, he understands what the manager wants, and he's just a safe pair of hands. Probably isn't fair, but he's just solid. But
yeah, he's a proper team player and an example setter. Now, probably somebody that was needed to get us out of the position that we're in. So, and let's not forget, although not having a huge impact with the ball, he still played a huge part of being that team that won 6 on the bounce for the first time since 1970. So.
But I think that if anything happens to either Gomez or Andre, then he'll be in CDM.
Yeah.
Or sometimes he puts them there, doesn't he, towards the end of a game when he's took them. And again, he can also play centre back as well. So he might be one of those players who, you know, I think more than ever now, every team has them. But I think he could be one of those real players who just fills in and does jobs for the team throughout the course of a season.
Moving on to Jean-Rick Bellegarde. I've always liked Jean Rickner, but got to say he's got to do better from there. I mean, key moments like that. But again, as I think we mentioned before, that I think if he's in the running the team, he finds that pass. He's been out of the team. Unfortunately, obviously, Cunha returns. Bellegarde's not fit enough. He starts anyway. Again, I like him. I'm probably not the best decision. It's the bit. I mean, you tend to remember the bad things more than the good things, don't you? With there, so. But for me, he did okay. And moving on to Cunha, other than he's put Jean Rickner through, and he's also hit the post from nothing. I don't think it was Cunha's best game.
No, I'd agree. But we've seen that so often in the past, haven't we? And then it's just that one moment of magic. But again, a lot of it for Wolves was they weren't negative, but it was about what we did when we didn't have the ball because we had shape, and he worked hard. And again, you can't always say that about Cunha, that sometimes you can see with his body language, it's like, well, I'm not chasing back and throwing his. There was none of that. And even when he took him off, he just took his medicine, didn't he? Just went. Got that moment of magic in his boots, hasn't he? So I think they missed Strand Larsen.
Yeah, we missed that focal point there because I thought, I mean, there's a couple of games he hasn't, but I thought particularly against Spurs, I think in the last home game as well, and he was winning a lot of headers and knockdowns.
Yeah.
And we looked like he was starting to fill that role more of a centre forward. He's been more of a poacher for me, as they said, but he's grown into more of a centre forward when he's been more physical. So yeah, we did miss that side of him. That wraps up the player and match report for episode 130 of the Wolves Report with Daz Hale from BBC WM and myself, Ryan Lester. We say this every year, and again, I think Tyler says this how many times on the group chat for the show. It feels like it's a massive summer for Wolves every single year. We keep having that conversation, whereas you look at the more consistent clubs in the Premier League, it's not so massive, but it feels like a massive summer, but not for the wrong reasons, Daz. It feels like there's a massive summer of opportunity.
Well, I was just going to make the point. There was no Strand Larson, and straight away we're missing a centre forward, aren't we? So it shows the shallowness of the squad. I think it's the balance of the squad now. We don't need the history lesson. We know what's gone on the last few summers and how it's ended up resulting. So they need to have learnt the lessons from the. Will they have done? I don't know. Now, I know Johnny Phillips wrote a really, really good article the other week about how maybe the penny had dropped, and there was going to be
a really good piece that was,
a different sort of approach this summer. Well, first of all, recruitment-wise, and I've been critical of the club, and quite rightly too at times. I think you look at the last 12 months, Strand Larson, who I think we've got to pay for this summer, so that'll be 23 million.
Clause has been activated. I think he got activated on the day of the Man City thing. We said we'd do it, yeah.
Out of the PSR, though, and it 23 million, I think. But you think Strand Larson, Agbedu,
good value, incredible value.
Andre, Rodriguez, and the manager. Now, I didn't know Vitor Pereira, and when we were appointing him, I'm on Dr. Google. I could sit here and pretend that I'm an expert on European football, or didn't know who he was. He could quite easily have been Ivan Juric, but I'd never heard of him either, and that's my point. So got it right. We could have ended up with him. I didn't know either of them from Adam, so. Fair dues for the recruitment. Now, if it is a zero net spend again this summer, I've no problem with that, providing they let him have what he raises. Now we've mentioned Cunha, so I've got my little here. I do research. A loaf of bread, £3. Oh no, that's
wrong. I'm glad you read that, not the other list, though.
Page. But no, listen, right. So stop me. I'm going to go through these, and you tell me if you think they'll go and how much we'll get for them. Well, Cunha, 62 million. Yeah.
Sold.
Fabio Silva, how much?
15 to 20.
Okay, so we're just going rough ballpark here. We can argue the toss. Okay, so we'll go 15, right, because his contract's up in a year. Tommy Doyle.
6.
Okay. Gonzalo Guedes, who's a big earner, by the way.
8 or 9.
Okay, we'll go 8. Sam Johnston.
6.
Okay, that would be disappointing. That'd be a right loss. Boubacar.
5.
Okay, that's if Boubacar goes. I think he's one of them he'd like to work with in the summer.
Yeah, I think Boubacar will stay.
Wang.
10.
He don't fancy Wang, does he? Lembakisa.
No, neither do I.
Lembakisa, 500 grand. Yeah?
500 grand, yeah, be gone.
Okay. What about Jose Sarr? Do you think he'll stay?
No.
So how much would they get for him?
I think there was talk of Saudi before. 10.
Okay. We then get 10% of any of the Morgan Gibbs White money.
If he goes for 80 and we sold for 40, that's another 4 million.
Okay, 4. Right. So I'm going here now. I would mention Carol Vorderman, but she hasn't done Countdown for about 20 years. So I'll be Rachel Riley. So you've got Cunha, 62. Silver, 15. That's 77. Doyle, 6, 83. Guedes, 8, 91. Johnston, 6, 97. Traore, 5, 102. Wang, 10, 112. Lembakisa, neither here nor there. Jose Sarr, 10, 122. Morgan Gibbs White, 126. They might sell 8 Nori. We'll leave that out for now. Off the wage bill,
as well, Daz, adding, okay, if we're not selling 8 Nori, we will sell Hugo Bueno, because we've obviously got Rodders that can play left wing back. So let's say 10 or 15 for. Okay. Because he's had a good season in Holland.
Well, a very conservative 120 million. And then off the wage bill, Dawson, who's on big money, Sarabia, who's one of the biggest earners. Let's hope Semedo doesn't go, but if he does go, he's on a lot of money. Joe Hodge and Keanu Hoover, didn't they have our pants down over that as part of the Jota deal?
Wow.
Right, these contracts up. So you're talking there, without the free agents going, this is very conservative, 120 million.
Without selling Ait-Nouri. Wow.
If you knock the 23 off the Strand Larsen, say, best part of £100 million to spend there. And that's just very rudimental maths.
There's a question, Daz, I'm going to bring in because we've sort of gone ahead of time a bit, but it feels like you've done the maths there and we've set this up lovely. Steve, a regular contributor to the show, Evie and Steve, with Vitor in post, could it be possible to improve the squad with a net zero spend, assuming Fabio, Cunha, Geds and possibly Ryan Ait-Nouri leave? Well, we're doing our maths there, and obviously with the John Percy breaking news, I absolutely think so. And if you looked at that, we've neither Joe Gomez, Andre, Agbadou, none of them cost £20 million. So if that level of recruitment can be achieved from shopping smartly in France, from shopping smartly in South America, Wolves could add there 5 or 6 players for that amount of money and add some very, very good footballers and give us a chance of a 10th plus finish. The
only player there, as regards if they sell them, that we've linked in there, who are currently starting, Cunha, obviously, goalkeeper. All the others are still there, what we've just said. So if the will's there, then, and I say, I'm a bit more optimistic now. I think obviously Uncle George is involved again as well. There's an opportunity here. Now, we can argue the toss, they might get more than 120, it might be a bit less, but we've just gone rough ballpark here, haven't we? There's a real opportunity there. And I just hope that the Cunha deal happens quickly.
It needs to happen during the first, it needs to be done.
Yeah. So we're not there doing the trolley dash. As entertaining as transfer deadline night is, we don't want to be there doing that. And imagine giving this guy 2 months then to work with. Obviously, there will be comings and goings later on, but with his core to be able to really instill his identity and mentality on a group of players. It's an opportunity. Don't bloody blow it this time.
Yeah, I see it as very much as I said at the start of this segment, I think this is more of a big summer for the right reasons, not for, oh my God, it could go tits again. For look at the momentum, look at the shape, look at the consistency, look what we're doing now. And as you mentioned then, Cunha and Jose Sarr, they're the 2 first teamers out of the bunch we mentioned. That's a huge amount of money to spend. And we talked about he wants players with pace in the inverted 4 positions. I think that's clear to see at the end of games when we're countering and we get up there and there's nothing to give in that area. So massive opportunity. Hopefully the ball is rolling. Mixed opinions on the football side about the history of do I trust them fully in the recruitment? No, but then you mentioned some of the players then and some of the business done. Well, yeah, they deserve a bit of respect for what they've done. So it's a massive opportunity and for all the right reasons, Daz. It really is.
I mean, that was Carlos Forbes who hasn't had a kick. But generally, I think the last 12 months, it's been a lot better, including the manager. So this doesn't mean any of this will happen, but this is the opportunity because I think most of those names we mentioned there, we'd expect to go. There might be a surprise, something, but generally, you'd expect them to recoup well over £100 million again this summer and get Sarabia and Dawson particularly, and hopefully not Nelson Semedo, who are big earners, and Guedes off the wage bill. So it's a real chance for them to start moving forward again. And, you know, they might even be able to buy some paint to paint the outside of not just the Billy Wright stand. But
looks nice now, though, I've got to say.
Yeah, you want to walk down past the Steve Bull stand. It's embarrassing. All the corrugated roof as you walk down from off the dual carriageway. It's grimy and that's not good. But anyway, I'm off at a tangent there now.
So in answer to Steve's question, could Wolves improve the squad at a net spend zero? A zero net spend? I think the answer is very much yes. I mean, what we talked about there with the numbers, I think it's absolutely possible. And if they wanted to spend a little bit more on top of that as well, feel free, guys. I mean, I've always said my issue with any owners, I'm not expecting you to put your hand in your pocket and relentlessly spend. That's not your job. Your job is to look after and care for our football club and do the best of your ability. And I don't think they've done that the last few years. Now, I'm not saying they've done it on purpose, but I think several departments could do a lot better. Well, I say departments, one particular person could do a lot better than what they've been doing. So again, yeah, that's on him. And hopefully he's a big summer ahead. Let's crack on some more questions. This is episode 130 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hale and myself, Ryan Lester. Steve, thank you for being the first contributor of the show tonight. A little bit of light-hearted stuff here. Kay says, are Chris and Mark on the beach already? As I said at the start of the show, Tyler's playing cricket and Mark's in Spain. So there you go. When the boys are away, I've got to bring the big dogs in, and that's why we're joined by BBC WM's Daz Hale.
Oh, you posted that. I mean, I'm glad you went like from the neck up, because I hear Nocky had his budgie smugglers on, didn't he?
It's a photo for
fire at the back.
I mean, it's a photo for Panorama and nothing else, to be honest. But we'll leave that on there. Again, Clive asks, would you take 40 million for Ryan Aït-Nouri, bearing in mind that we could potentially have Rodrigo and Bueno with us battling next season for that spot? Yeah, I think at the start of the show, if I hadn't have known the Aït-Nouri news, Clive, I'd have said, yeah, I think he's at peak value. He's technically got 2 years left on his deal. I don't want any player of that ability to go, but I think Wolves do run things as a business, and football is more of a business than it ever was. And you have to cash in on your assets. I mean, look at Man United, look at some of these clubs, look at Villa. These guys are going to struggle with PSR stuff. So even the biggest guys who've done in and around the Champions League have to be mindful of that, and Wolves will as well. But after what John Percy has written, Clive, no, I'm going to feel heartbroken now if Aït-Nouri doesn't sign. Daz?
Yeah, but if he doesn't sign, then 40 million's good, isn't it? So we're on the way. I mean, if he does sign, then there'll probably be a release clause, but the ball's in his court now, isn't it? But 40, I mean, ultimately, the model, as you know, will be to buy players and then sell them on at the right time, and then try and bring in the replacement. So the very fact they've offered him a new deal tells me, it goes back to what Johnny Phillips had said, that maybe they are just showing a little bit more ambition now. But if he chooses not to sign it because he's been tapped up by another club, then fair dues, and we'll take the money and hopefully we'll reinvest it. And I do like Hugo Bueno. I really like Rodrigo Gomez. Really like him and his pace, and he's a player I think still got a lot. He's quite raw yet, but you can see what he's got for him. But the ball's in Aït-Nouri's court now. If he's offered the deal, if he signs it, fantastic. Because
him and Vitor offering new deals before the end of the new season and signing. What a way to end the season.
Money and run, yeah.
Absolutely. Clive, thank you for being part of the show. Next up is Jordan. Why does everyone seem happy to presume our best players will leave? Cunha going, others on loan such as Fabio, put together with unwanted players as well. How much more money? I think Daz covered that earlier on. Comfortably over £100 million. And as Steve said earlier on, if we do like a net spend, it could be a really good summer. One thing I would say about that, Jordan, is why is everyone happy to presume our best players are going? I think we know Cunha's going. I think there's no secret. Unless he got injured, I'd be staggered if Cunha isn't gone, even in June. But I think with the way football is and the financial rules that suit some way more than they suit others, I think unfortunately you have to sell now and you have to turn things around, particularly if there's any homegrown elements to it. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. And I think it favours the teams that are already in the Premier League. I mean, we'll look at the Premier League last year. But yeah, your take on that, Daz?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where we are. And you mentioned Aston Villa earlier. Well, in the last year, obviously they had to sell Jack Grealish 2 or 3 years ago. But in the last year, they had to sell Douglas Luiz in the summer window. They had to for PSR reasons. They lost Moussa Diaby. Then they cashed in on John Duran in the January. And they will still have to sell a player this summer, even if they make the Champions League.
That's incredible.
Wrong, but it's not just war.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't care about Aston Villa either way. But for a club to be going deep into cup competitions and in the Champions League and still flirting with the Champions League positions now, I don't understand how teams can be so restricted. It feels like a rule to protect certain teams. That's my opinion, and it doesn't feel right. Granted, if it was just a free for all and you had relentless oil money pumping in, it would be an uncompetitive league. I want somewhere in the middle, but at the moment it just feels a little bit lopsided. Jordan, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. Great question coming up from Mark. With the squad balance, how will we address the 7 needed British players, or will we run a shorter squad? Good question, Mark. Daz.
Over to Matt Hobbs and co. That's something they're going to have to think about. And as regards recruitment, that will have to be on their minds. They've got to, and they'll be well aware of that as well. And again, there might be certain players that they might try and take, who are technically homegrown from some of the relegated teams, or some of the teams who don't quite make it up this season from the Championship. But that's something they'll be well aware. Obviously, if they do lose Sam Johnston, and they are going to lose Craig Dawson,
that's 2 gone already, isn't it?
Doyle, that is
3, yeah.
Going to have to address, isn't it? So yeah.
So again, I mean, we talked about it last time, and I gave my opinion. But with that in mind, a return of a Connor Cody kind of makes sense in a way. But from that side, I was against it on the playing side, because I don't think he can only play in one play and one style. And for me, that's a deep-sitting counter-attacking back 3. I don't think that works. But in terms of leadership and adding to the British quota, it may be something to think about. But
yeah,
we went over that before. But
playing many games for you, would you? But
no, but and he's on big money. He's got a year left. Surely, early 30s, you want to be playing week in, week out at the end of your career. I don't know. Maybe he loves Wolves that much, and I'm.
Well, he was getting booed by the Leicester fans, so I don't think he'll be. Yeah, So
what I would say though, what I did find was really funny. Is obviously his song was fantastic, and he deserved that. But I love the way they were booing him. The Wolves player, the Wolves fans were booing him for a joke afterwards. I love that kind of football humour. But Mark, thank you for being part of the latest show. It is something of concern, but again, the director of football and his staff should really have their eyes on that. But it is going to be a challenge, because obviously Sam Johnston, Tommy Doyle, Craig Dawson as a minimum departing. You'd imagine they'll all be gone. That sort of creates even more an issue. But Mark, thanks for being part of the show. Again, I think we covered this earlier on, but we'll go through it. Kev says, with Silva gaining attention from other foreign clubs after a decent season, do you think we'll get our purchase price back for him if we sell him? Now, I was thinking about this earlier on. Great question, Daz. I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say we got 20 million for Fabio. I know we said 15 anyway. Let's say we got 20 million. Bearing in mind all his loan moves, the loan fees, and the wages covered, I don't think Wolves would make that much of a loss on Fabio Silva if he went for 20 million.
Yeah, his contract's up in a year. So, no, you're right. So they will have got higher. What did we pay? Reportedly 35. I think it was closer to 28 with bonds if he did scored so many goals or whatever. So that ain't happened. But it clearly, maybe Victor Pereira might think, oh, I'll give him one. I'll look at him in the summer and maybe I could get a tune out of him. But I don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. I think it'd be the right time for him to go. So, to me, anything they get for him is a bonus. But with his contract up in a year, they're going to have to. If you don't fancy him, now's the time to strike.
Absolutely. I don't think as an asset now, his value is going to increase any more than it is now.
No.
He's got good. I think he's won Young Player of the Month in the Liga twice. He scored double figures in a struggling team. He scored the winner against Barcelona at Barcelona. And he's a young lad. That may be the style of football there may suit him. And good luck. I hope he does well, because it wasn't his fault. He didn't choose his price tag. So,
but Ryan, the other thing that again, he was a young lad, so it might have changed a little bit. But I think as regards team harmony and the rest of it, I think that maybe he had a bit of a ego going on and all. So I think he's trying to create, again, going back to the Nuno vibes, a real close knit sort of family. So the likes of him, and obviously Podence, who ended up going last summer as well. It's they go for a reason at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Podence. I mean, proper housery, but moments of magic for us that season under Lopetegui at the end. Big player for us then. So yeah, absolute pain in the backside. But yeah, Kev, thank you for being part of the latest show. We'll squeeze one more question in. I think this is more tongue in cheek from Bobby, but we'll do it and then we'll preview Wolves going against Brighton on Saturday. Bobby says, over the past 4 seasons, Wolves have conceded 30 penalties over the same period. We have only had 8. Surely we should be looking to sign Jamie Vardy. I mean, we talked about one Hauser to another. I mean, one of the greatest Premier League ever goal scorers. I mean, it's just. I think Jamie Vardy will be playing Premier League football next year for somebody as an impact player. I don't think Wolves. I mean, he's on 100 grand plus at Leicester, and I'm not sure Wolves were paying that. And I'm not sure. Granted, he's a winner and he's a pain in the backside, but I'm not sure that's the kind of character we want at Wolves. Or is it maybe some people like that? I don't know. Daz?
We ain't getting 100 grand a week anywhere anyway now. We see wherever he goes. I mean, like, that was with the British quota again. If he was in and around the place and you got him sitting on the bench for 10 minutes to go, then I could, we'll see. I don't think they'll sign someone that age. Well, if they get, especially for Cody, they won't bring two players in that age. I wouldn't have thought, but don't know.
Well, I'm sure Vardy's 38, isn't he? Next birthday as well.
77 next birthday. But he's nearly as old as Ken Barlow. But, it's look, I mean, as regards to penalties, we haven't had one all season, have we? Not one.
We have to get, I think this is more of a case of highlighting our style of football, and I don't think we've put ourselves in many positions to be winning penalties. To be honest, I think that I don't think there's a conspiracy here, Daz, because we've not been trying for a penalty every week. We've just not been the kind of team. No one's done what Jamie Vardy's done against us, and leaving that foot in there. We've just not been in that position. Whether we need to be delivering those dark arts more, I don't know, but I don't think we've been playing the style of play that puts us in those positions.
Agreed. And Rachel said that you've got to get in the penalty area to get penalties.
Absolutely. Bobby, thank you for your, I don't know if you were taking the mickey out of us, but either way, it created some debate. Getting towards the end of the show now, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock at Molineux, Wolves take on Brighton Hove Albion. One of the kinder on the eye teams, play some nice football, but as we saw at Brighton, they were 2-0 up and we got back to a 2-2 draw. Dangerous team, but very vulnerable and can be got at, Daz.
One of the moments of the season, that was, wasn't it?
Oh, Tommy Doyle.
Scored the second goal on 88. And I've been there a couple of weeks before in the Cup when we got beat 3-2 and they were hanging on a bit at the end. They're not the team they were. And they've clearly got, I think they've been worked out a little bit. Clearly, one of those teams on their day, they can beat anybody, and they have done. But I don't think it's quite the Brighton team of like 2 or 3 seasons ago. Couple of stats for you here, actually. Wolves' last goalless draw in the Premier League was 53 games ago, away at Brighton in January 24. How long since Wolves' last goalless draw at Molineux?
Oh, my word, I don't remember it.
Nearly 3 years.
Who was that against?
August 2022, first home game of the season against Fulham. So it's either going to be 0-0 on Saturday, or we're going to get a penalty. Going back to where it had a penalty. Have a penalty and miss it and draw 0-0. But we're due a goalless draw.
0-0 with a missed penalty. Oh, that's on Saturday afternoon. We're really looking forward to that, Daz. Just in terms of team selection, we don't know the severity of Strand Larsen. But for me, if he's fit, he has to start. Granted, it's Man City and it's a different way of looking at it. But I think we missed that focal point of what he brings. He's an out ball if we're struggling, if we get tucked into a corner, because Brighton will probably have more of the ball than us, because that's just the way they play. But if Strand Larsen comes back in, who does he come in back in for?
Well, I think he just comes in for Bellegarde again, doesn't he? And he goes back to the team that had won the previous 6 matches. So, and I mean, Vitor said, didn't he, that he didn't think it was anything serious with Strand Larsen. But of course, we've heard managers say this before, haven't we? And then you don't see it for a week. So, but for me, yeah, it's at the moment, as we said before, he's been trying to keep a settled side. So if Strand Larsen's fit, you just revert back to the team who'd been playing so well and winning football matches. And then, as somebody said the other day on the football phone, in one of the legends, that now these days with the 5 substitutions, and managers almost plan for 2 matches now. The first hour, and then the second half hour when the 3, 4, 5 substitutions. And obviously Wolves have been using theirs. We know who the go-tos are generally now. Obviously Sarabia is normally the first one on, and then Rodrigo will come on. So it's these players now, even if they don't start, they probably even know that they're going to come on at a certain minute
They'll get
unless
a decent chunk of football
for an injury. So I think that's probably what he'll do. He'll go back to that 11.
I mean, I think as much as I'd like to see more of Rodrigo, I think, as you said earlier on, he's a raw talent, but his energy, the joy on his face to see was wonderful when he scored that goal. He seems like a fantastic guy. I want to see more of him. Hope we see more of him next season. But equally, I think this has been talked about a bit. Momentum is massive in football. And if we can finish the season on a high and that positivity is taken through the pre-season, we can take it into next season. I don't want it to whimper out. Granted, there's nothing to play for, but they're not playing like a side who's just on the beach, other than obviously Nocky and Tyler not turning up tonight. But they're not really on the beach. They're playing for each other. Unlucky at Man City. They're playing really well. So hopefully that continues. I think Brighton offer their own threats. I think they're very dangerous going forward, but they can also be got at, Daz.
Yeah, I agree. I say that they are a very good team, but they're not quite the full. They're not as consistent as they were 3 seasons ago. I think I think they could still make Conference League if it ends up in the top 8 going in Conference League, depending on whether Man City win the cup and who wins the Europa and all that. So they've still got something to play for, and they are a decent team, but not quite as formidable as they were when they were really on it a couple of seasons ago. So I think it'll be a decent game. And the thing is as well that you get £2.5 million for every place you finish. And again, that's another incentive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And there'll probably be certain bonuses that the players will be getting as well for each position, and that comes into play.
Absolutely. So for me, then, just finishing off, if Strand Larsen's fit, he starts. Bellegarde comes out. Otherwise, no need to change it. As much minutes as possible for Rodrigo. I think he deserves that, and then we keep going forward. Also, and I know this might sound a little bit sort of counterproductive, I'm getting to the point now when I know Cunha is going, and I'm going to be cautious. So I would be happy taking him off a little bit earlier. Granted, I want to win games, and I'm not going to completely wrap him in cotton wool. But a footballer that wasn't happy in January with some questionable behaviour, the last thing we need is him getting an injury and not being able to sell him. So I think we need to get that done quickly. Gets to an hour or so, I'd be looking at other things and getting some other people games. That's just my opinion.
I think he'll need is to get injured as well, so we're just got to make sure that he was fine at Man City, didn't pull out of anything. But if that starts happening, then you need to just take him out anyway, because he's like at the point where it's self-preservation a little bit for him as well.
Absolutely. We are getting to the end of episode 130 of the Wolves Report. It is prediction time. We'll start off with you, Daz. Wolverhampton Wanderers playing their penultimate home game of the season against Brighton and Hove Albion. First scorer and prediction, please.
2-1, Agbadou.
Oh, yes. I thought you were going to go 0-0 with a missed penalty, just to be spiteful, like you talked about earlier on. But yeah, I do feel good about this. I can't see Brighton not scoring despite how good we are defensively. I think they're good going forward. But I do think they are vulnerable as well. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 classic. I'm going to go with Marshall Manetzi. This has been episode 130 of the Wolves Report. Thank you so much to BBC WM's Daz Hale. I've been your host, Ryan Lester. Looking forward to catching you all next episode on Sunday. Up the Wolves.